Now it's come up, and John Solomon has put out this incredible reporting about the Clintons and the Clinton Foundation, the Clinton Global Initiative. And if you hearken back a decade ago, a little institution, a small institution really run by some amazing people, actually drilled down into the Clintons and expose their corruption. And as much as anything else, President Trump's America First and President Trump's, build the wall and bring jobs back in that really intense fight in the 2016 campaign, a big element of this was people's just hesitation and reservations about the Clintons just being too corrupt. Not just Bill Clinton and his obvious perversions and corruptions, but really Hillary as the head of the mob over there. I want to bring in now Peter Schweizer, Eric Eggers from Government Accountability. And guys, I just want to, because a lot of people, particularly a lot of the newer audience that's come to the war room since the pandemic or since the 2020 election, a lot of these people didn't even vote for Trump in 2016 or were not awakened to politics, much less what happened in 2015. I want to go back to the beginning and talk about, because my understanding in talking to people after John Solomon broke it, there's some serious, grand jury, there's some serious investigation going on about the very topics you guys exposed over a decade ago. So walk us through, Peter and Eric, walk through what exactly are we talking about in Clinton corruption, Clinton cash, all of it, guys.
Well, what we showed in the book Clinton Cash, and Clinton Cash was, of course, a culmination of research that the Government Accountability Institute had put forward. And you, Steve, of course, co-found GAI with me, and you were chairman of the organization at the time that the book came out in 2015. We showed that the Clintons were taking huge sums of money in the forms of speaking fees that Bill Clinton was getting while Hillary was the Secretary of State. This was coming from foreign sources like Russia and China, these very corrupt corners of the earth. And the Clinton Foundation itself was getting large donations from people that were getting favors from the State Department. They were getting Haitian reconstruction contracts, et cetera. So that was kind of the genesis of the book. It was the paper trail. It was the money trail. And I would argue that kind of laid the predicate, or laid the pattern, which the Bidens would follow later with regards to China.
Yeah, I think you absolutely can't separate the Biden family corruption, which we also chronicled here at the Government Accountability Institute. Remember, Joe Biden's vice president, Hunter Biden, is his son. They're watching how much money the Clintons are making because she's Secretary of State. One of the more shocking statistics, Steve, and your audience will just be stunned to learn this. Bill Clinton, after he leaves the presidency, gives 13 speeches for which he's paid over $500,000, right? He leaves the office in 2000. 11 of those speeches in which he's paid over $500,000 don't come until Hillary becomes Secretary of State. And as Peter likes to say, so he either became a better speaker or people realized the front door to the State Department came in Bill's wallet, right? And so, yeah, Clinton cash just exposed the shameless and obscene ways that people traded favors, and that's what I think why quite honestly the FBI reached out, and that's what we now know from this John Solomon reporting. Clinton Cash is published on May 5th, 2015. And now we know the FBI is having internal negotiations about should we open an investigation into the Clinton Foundation less than 2 months later.
Hey, but when Clinton, because I want to go back about how it was set up, when the Clintons left the White House, they actually had negative net worth because they had never really owned any real estate because he'd been governor of Arkansas and then the president, right? So they hadn't built up any net worth. They were actually, I think, had negative net worth, Peter, if I remember your analysis, because of the legal fees around Monica Lewinsky and his impeachment. As I told people at the beginning, remember, the White House counsel's office represents the office of the president, not the individual. So Clinton had to go get his own individual lawyers. Negative net worth. But they thought of the concept. They understood with all the world leaders coming into the White House and the Chinese generals with the cash, they weren't really able to skim any off the top. So they came up with an architecture that combined their contacts throughout the world. Hillary's going to be president one day, right? Maybe she'll take a stop as Secretary of State or Secretary of Defense. But they set up an apparatus to monetize these relationships, not forward the advancement of the United States, but to monetize their relationships empowered to come. Did they not?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Steve. And the reason that this worked so well for the Clintons is Bill leaves office in 2000. What happens? Hillary runs for the U.S. Senate 2 years later and becomes a senator from New York. And we trace the fact that she joined certain committees, and the committees that she was on ended up covering areas where big donations came from people who wanted favors from Hillary, and Hillary gave it to them. When she became the Secretary of State under Barack Obama, that's when it just absolutely exploded. And you got all these foreign entities. The whole Russia collusion farce as it relates to Trump was not a farce when it came to the Clintons. I mean, one of the things we showed in the book, and you'll remember, Steve, the New York Times ran a front page story, 4,000 words, confirming the Uranium One story. The fact that Bill Clinton helped these investors get the uranium mines from Kazakhstan with the help of the Russians. And then they, of course, got Uranium One, which was a U.S. uranium company. They folded that into it. That ended up being bought by the Russians. And the Clinton Foundation got $145 million from the investors in that uranium company. So there was Russia collusion. It was not just that, but there was massive Russia collusion involving the Clintons. Those were the days where they thought Putin, oh, this is a decent guy, a guy we can do business with, and a guy who can make us rich.
Eric, there you see right there is it's not just the foundation that can get the speaking fees and everything else, but it's the exploitation of relationships. This is what we saw in Biden when we went and saw everything that they were doing with the Chinese Communist Party and later with Ukraine. Talk to me, though, for a second on Uranium One, because people are on me all the time. Why don't you ever bring up Uranium One? Did it not shift with nuclear power and nuclear energy and our nuclear ballistic missile submarines as a part of the triad of nuclear defense? Did we not essentially transfer ownership of Americans, a lot of Americans, almost all of Americans' best uranium, exploitable uranium assets to essentially what became a Russian entity? Is that the big reveal in Uranium One?
Look, Steve, historians can debate whether it was wise to transfer 20% of U.S. uranium assets to Vladimir Putin. I mean, he's clearly someone who's proven to be a great steward of energy resources, and he's not going to encroach in the global. No, this was a disaster, and it was a disaster then. People flagged it as a disaster. By the way, you know who knew it was a problem? That the Clintons were set up to be kind of trading international favors while people are being paid? The Obamas. The Obama administration made the Clintons sign a number of disclosures about people they would and would not take money from in the Clinton Foundation. Of course, the Clintons violated that almost from day one. And Uranium One is perhaps the most flagrant violation of things that should have been in the United States' best interest. I think among the more damning pieces of evidence we have in the Clinton Cash, the book, the documentary, the graphic novel, is the fact that this entity called Salida Capital, which eventually became a wholly owned subsidiary of the Russian energy company Rosatom, paid for a speech by Bill Clinton and donated to the Clinton Foundation. Those are the same people, Rosatom, by the way, that built the Iranian nuclear reactors. So, I mean, the Clintons are deep in the worst elements of what's happening to Russia right now.
Guys, hang on. I want to hold you through the break. We got a lot more to go over, including the release of the book, Clinton Cash, the graphic novel, then the film. We released the film in 2016, how many views the film has had, how it changed the mind of many, particularly Bernie bros. And I think it shows you, I've always said Bernie Sanders is not a serious person. All this was out there. He had 2 shots at the Clintons, and it was always a pillow fight. He would never, you have to go there. If you're going to go against the Clintons, you got to show that they're a mafia-type operation. And they do not put the interests of the United States first. They put their own personal avarice and greed and search for power first. They always have. Short commercial break. The government accountability guys are here to talk to you about Clinton Cash and the ongoing corruption of the Clintons. Guys, I want to get back to the Clintons, but I got to remind people, this small institute, government accountability, you also found out, Peter and Eric proved how Nancy Pelosi went from a person on a school board to one of the richest people in Congress, not just by insider trading, but it was even deeper by getting kissed in as she shook down Silicon Valley for the first time to give political donations. That's what was her rise to power. She also got kissed into all the pre-IPO of all the blowout tech deals and made a fortune. Her husband, who I think ran a car service, they said, oh, what a genius. You actually, Peter, exposed him. 60 Minutes actually bid on this, and I remember they went and they embarrassed her at her weekly meeting where that mouth couldn't even, she couldn't, all the plastic in her face, she couldn't stop the lips moving. But you got the Stock Act passed. I want people to understand all the insider trading stuff you're hearing today. Schweizer and Eric got the Stock Act passed that banned that for about a minute. Did you not, guys?
Yeah, the book Throw Them All Out came out. That was the first product of Government Accountability Institute that we set up. 60 Minutes ran an episode on insider trading. They went and interviewed Nancy Pelosi. I would say find that on YouTube, Nancy Pelosi 60 Minutes. You're going to be astonished. It's great. And then shortly after that, Barack Obama mentioned in the State of the Union address that he wanted to ban insider trading. And like you said, they did it for a minute, Steve. Then in an act of bipartisanship, who says bipartisanship is dead in D.C., the Republicans and Democrats said, wait a minute. We want to do insider trading. So they basically gutted the Stock Act, and we are where we are today. And you're quite right. I mean, people describe Paul Pelosi, Nancy's husband, as a investor. He ran a car limousine business in San Francisco. What turned him into an investor was the fact that they got juiced into all these pre-IPO shares of stock. And in the 60 Minutes episode, we showed that they got, I think it was like 5,000 shares of pre-IPO stock in Visa. And there was a piece of legislation in Congress that was going to be really tough on Visa. Nancy Pelosi was a speaker, and she killed it. And they got the 5,000 shares of IPO stock. They made $100,000 in like less than 4 hours when it went public. And I think there were 11 different IPOs that got shares in stock. And it also has to be said, Paul Pelosi has a success rate on options trading. You would know more about this than I do, Steve. Options trading, very, very difficult, very speculative. His success rate in making money in options trades is above 80%, which is just unprecedented. So this is all courtesy of the inside information.
The reason
that she gets.
The system, when Peter came to me and says the system allows them to trade on material, non-public information, of course, I always say that's ridiculous. It doesn't happen. Of course, he was right and proved it. The book comes out on May 5th of 2015. A couple weeks before, Joe Becker, the great investigative reporter for the New York Times, does a front page story on Uranium One that has everybody going to general quarters because it shows just this graft and greed of the Clintons. What happens? The FBI, what do we know now in this investigation about what the FBI was thinking of after the publication of the book Clinton Cash?
Yeah, so the book came out, and within a couple of weeks, we got contacted by the FBI. These were field offices. And, Steve, when we set up GAI, one of our rules was if a congressional committee or law enforcement wants our information, we're going to share it with them. I mean, that's just kind of what we're going to do. So we gave them all the information, and the investigation evolved organically. These were the field offices. This was not FBI headquarters. So you had the FBI office in Little Rock. You had the public corruption section in Manassas, Virginia. You had the New York office. You had the Boston office. And you might also remember, Steve, there was actually an annex office of the FBI in Lagos, Nigeria, that was investigating this as well. And they actually got their hands on a video recording of a Clinton Foundation donor from Nigeria bragging on a phone call with somebody else that he had donated to the Clinton Foundation, was getting all these favors from the Clinton campaign. So the investigation was off and rolling. And again, this was the field offices. We now know, based on the FBI documents released by Kash Patel and John Solomon's reporting, that this was shut down by headquarters. They said, you are to cease and desist, stop. We don't want to hear any more about this. The field offices kind of continued a little bit because they thought that this was such a big, important story. And then it was finally Sally Yates at the Department of Justice who said, this is done, shut it off, no more investigation into this.
But Steve, think about this, right? We now know, according to the timeline, so Clinton Cash comes out May of 2015. Formal investigations are opened in January of 2016 in those offices Peter just mentioned. And then you get pushback from Andrew McCabe and Sally Yates. Sally Yates says to shut it down. It's no specific date, but in March of 2016. So you've got the Department of Justice actively shutting down investigations into real things. Meanwhile, because of Clinton Cash and the reporting on the Uranium One story and how Hillary essentially helped funnel 20% of U.S. uranium to Russia specifically, this is really important. The Clinton campaign did a poll. We know this because it was reported in the Columbia Journalism Review years later. They knew they had a problem. They were actually seen as too sympathetic and friendly to Vladimir Putin. They knew it was one of their biggest political vulnerabilities. So when Donald Trump emerges, they say, okay, how do we address this real political vulnerability that we have? I know we'll say Donald Trump is the Russian asset. That's where the Steele dossier came from. That's where all the fabricated intelligence came from. And so they were able to kind of funnel that and feed that to reporters who felt bad that they were used in this reporting that ultimately hurt Hillary Clinton. So just remember this. The FBI is shutting down an investigation into a real problem of influence trading and money going to Bill Clinton and the Clinton Foundation. At the same time, they were promoting the fake story of Donald Trump being a Russian asset. That's among the things that we now know, and this timeline helps add granular detail to. It's incredibly gross.
Do we know, by the way, the film comes out, we make the film and we put it out for free. I think we release it on 1 August and it's, millions and millions of views, particularly among independents, Democrats, and a ton of Bernie bros that sit there and go, this is what we wanted Bernie to attack her on, her corruption and they didn't. That was a big part of people's hesitation or reservations about Hillary Clinton herself, not just Donald Trump's relentless campaign on putting America first and attacking Hillary Clinton, that there was independent sources out there, particularly. And I want to mention, Eric, you actually went in this whole process against our advice. You actually went to Haiti. Give me a minute on Haiti, because now Haiti's another mess because the Clintons went down there and grabbed money with both hands and left those people defend for themselves. Give us your take on Haiti.
Well, let me just say, if Peter told me today not to go to Haiti, I'd probably be more inclined to listen to him. No, what the Clintons have done in Haiti, I mean, you talk about the Bernie bros being against what Hillary did. Their original populist uprising against Clinton corruption is actually from Haitians, because you have this devastating earthquake that happened. $13 billion in aid pours into Haiti. Hillary as Secretary of State and Bill as Special Envoy to Haiti for the UN are singularly and uniquely positioned to kind of oversee the reconstruction. Haiti, as we now know, is still quite broken, is arguably way worse off than it was. But who's not worse off are the friends of the Clintons who were paying for speeches for Bill, donating to the foundation, and making money off of these reconstruction contracts. A cell phone company called Digicel made millions of dollars. Haiti actually became their most profitable market in the aftermath of the earthquake. Meanwhile, they're getting contracts from Hillary's Department of State through USAID for like a phone banking initiative. For the first time ever, Haiti's Senate decides to open up 2 gold mining permits. They're going to say, all right, hey, look, we don't have a lot, but we maybe have some natural resources. Let's see if we have some gold, how that does in the open market. One of the 2 companies called VCS Mining, they end up deciding that it'd be a good idea to add noted mineralogist Tony Rodham, Hillary's brother, to the board. I mean, it's just so blatant the way they exploited that country and those people. Bad. And you can just, and the proof is in the pudding. Like, the Clintons are rich and Haiti's still quite broken.
They've got barbecue running the thing. Real quickly, we got about a minute and a half. today with the grand juries, everything meeting, since they still got Clinton, I think the foundation, they're still out trying to shake people down, this ongoing conspiracy. The statute of limitations, I think technically is not run out, has it? Or is this going to be an active part? My sources are telling me that, hey, people are drilling down on this big time, even at the grand jury level. Any updates on that or anything you guys have heard?
Yeah, no, I think they are drilling down on it. And look, I'm not a lawyer, but my understanding is that if there is a conspiracy, an illegal conspiracy that's engaged in, the statute of limitations runs as long as the conspiracy, not as when the underlying crime itself happened to occur. And let's remember, Steve, I mean, what happened when Hillary Clinton lost in 2016, the next year, the Clinton Foundation donations dropped by close to 90%. And a lot of that was international money. So it just showed that this was an influence game. So look, the reason this needs to be investigated is not just to have justice with regards to all the things that the Clintons did. As you and I have talked about before, Steve, anytime you have a corrupt mechanism that is created in Washington, D.C., it's going to be imitated by Republicans, Democrats, by the establishment. So we've got 100%. To lay down the marker. This is unacceptable. You cannot do this.
Hang on for 1 second. I just want to hold you to the break because I want to get to where everybody goes to get the information. And Eric nailed it. Not just that Biden take it as a template. It's the predicate. It's the linking device for the whole Russia collusion hoax. They had to have something, and the Clintons had to have a diversion. Short commercial break. Okay, remember, this Clinton investigation is a real thing, and it's going to heat up, and we have to get to the bottom of it. And the two guys are going to help get to the bottom of it are my two guests. Eric, where do people go to get all your social media and everything that you're putting out, sir?
Yeah, thank you. So Peter and I do a podcast each week called The Drilldown. We've been fortunate to have you on as a guest. We have a lot of really important newsmakers. We do information you're not going to find anywhere else. You can find that at thedrilldown.com. You can find me on Twitter at Eric_Eggers.
Peter, where do people go get all your writings, all your books? You've been doing this for a while. The stuff's outstanding. So where do folks go to get all of your content?
Yeah, you can certainly listen to me on our podcast. You can go to @Peter Schweizer on Twitter, and you can find the books anywhere where books are available. I've got one finished now that'll be coming out in January that I think will be of a lot of interest.
Perfect, guys. This Clinton thing is real. A grand jury's all over top of it. You guys are going to be the centerpiece of this. So go with God. Godspeed on this task of bringing the Clintons to accountability. God bless you.